Welcome to episode 65 of Broad Street Hustle. I'm your host, Tommy Nanny, coming here on a Thursday night with the OG crew. I got Jason Sayeda here.
Hey, Tom.
Jason, how are you? I got
I'm
Jimmy the
good.
Chalk live from Saratoga tonight. Actually, he's in Jimmy D's house. Jimmy D is not there. I don't know if it's uh, called the authority type situation or if
Yeah,
this
he
was
broke in.
authorized, but we got Jimmy the Chalk live from Saratoga.
It's authorized. I classed the place up a little bit. I put the Irish flag hanging outside already, so let the neighbors know, everything's good. But
Nah, I don't know if that's class enough. And we got my Christopher Michael Meeker.
Yep, we gotta get this podcast going because I gotta get back to my immaculate grids. My 4 immaculate grids I have to do for the day. Getting stuck on the hockey one.
I haven't gotten to that today yet.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Is that
No?
something?
You know the Immaculate Grids?
Is that a game?
Mm.
My producers tell me to keep the show going, so we can just.
Some-
Yeah, we'll fill you in
Is-
afterwards.
It's not. Is that some sort of game?
Yes.
It's like
Some
a
sort
it's
of
like a
game.
word it's like a word game for sports. Sports.
It's like
Nah.
sport.
Explain
It's like sports Sudoku.
Nah, I'm an adult.
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah.
get that one. All right, let's
We're-
jump right into it. So earlier in the week, we were trying to figure out topics of what to discuss, and obviously we said let's talk about let's bring up the Phillies so we can all crush them. Basically, they were in the midst of a 5-game losing streak, and then the ninth inning happened of that night. They came back and won, and they won yesterday. So now they're in a two-game winning streak, and they actually have 14 games that really could turn the season one way or another. Where what 10 of them are against losing teams, not even losing teams, like pretty bad teams. So it's a big part of the season. So we're going to talk about the Phillies, and I'll turn it over to Jason. You can give your overall opinion, or you could just answer the question: why does Trey Turner suck?
Well, listen, I mean, it's frustrating, and nobody is more frustrated than me with his play. But I'm by no means, I'm not defending his performance because it's been dreadful, and on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. But he's clearly pressing now, and Thompson, I don't know what he was waiting for to jump in, basically he said, "Oh, I asked him if he wanted to come out of the lineup." Well, which baseball player is going to say, "Yeah, I want to sit"?
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
more of
wanna
a
play."
red flag if he says he wants to sit.
Of course, come on. So, and then he played, and had another bad game, and the idiots in the stands are booing him. The guy. It's not like the guy's
I
not
was there.
trying. I mean,
I was there
come
for
on.
that.
Where you going?
No.
No,
But I
because
was there for
it's
it.
counterintuitive. Listen, nobody wanted to boo more than me from my couch, but I mean, come on. It's not like the guy's not trying, and it's making it worse. But anyway, so he finally sits him. And I think he should actually. I think when they play again tomorrow night, I would drop
Drop
him down
him in the
lineup
lineup,
a
right?
little
I
bit.
mean, Castellanos
Drop-
looked good at the 2 spot yesterday.
I would drop him to 6, and give him, move Bohm or Stott up, or both of them up, and just drop him to 6, take a little pressure off of him, But what I will say is I also took the time to take a look at the other 3 free agent shortstops, the big ones that were out there. And it's pretty interesting when you hear their stats. So I'm gonna read them off to you real fast. So Trey Turner obviously is struggling. 245, 10 home runs, 297 on base, which is awful, and slugging of 384. So I'll move on to the next guy, Xander Bogaerts. He's hitting 265, not lighting the world on fire. 11 home runs, 349 on base percentage, which is a lot better. So I'll give him that. The on base percentage is a lot better. Slugging 402, right where Turner is. Dansby Swanson 267, 12 home runs. Again, a little bit on the on base percentage. You got him at 351. Slugging at 431, not lighting the world on fire. Carlos Correa, 228, 12 home runs, 304 on base percentage, 401 slugging percentage. None of these guys are lighting the world on fire. So again, I'm not defending his performance, but I'm just saying it's not like, oh, they made a huge mistake and they should have signed Dansby Swanson or Bogarts or something. It's like we know how good this guy is, and it's Meeker, I think, mentioned this a couple back. Like, for them to do what they need to do, this guy's got to start doing what we know he could do. And booing him is not going to help him. The guy's just got to get back on track.
Yeah, and I don't think it's uncommon. Obviously I don't have stats for it, but free agents in their first year typically underperform, especially the year prior when they're in a contract year. I mean, it's human nature that they're going to overachieve that year to get the contract, and they're going to have some sort of lapse. It's not like he's training less. It's just mental. It's focus. It's a lot of stuff. So, I mean, we saw it with Castellanos last year. We saw it with Harper in his first year. That's been his worst year as a Philly. Was his first year of free agency. So to say he can't get it back, it's just kind of need him to pick it up a little bit this year to make a nice run at it.
It's his play's frustrating. There's no doubt about it. He's just got to be better. But
again, if he's not batting 2 and he is batting 6, some of those
there's less
warts are hidden, and it's
onus on him. Coming up with guys on base and not getting the job done.
Hey, you let him hit back. You let him work his way back up to the lineup, but you don't let him keep fouling at the 2 spot. Chalky.
Yeah, well, I think the point you made, or the stat that you mentioned earlier about their upcoming schedule is going to be important because, this is where they made headway last year, was beating up on the bad teams, and that's where they're different. Their winning margin in the record that got them in the playoffs was really fortified against those teams. Now, after the All-Star break, they've played every team they've played in the All-Star break is in playoff contention. And they're 7-6, so 1 game up, but they're just up and down against the good teams. They look real bad at times against Milwaukee and Cleveland, and they took 3 out of 4 from San Diego, and could have took 3 out of 3 or lost 3 out of 3, but they took 2 out of 3 from Baltimore, and so now they've taken 5 out of 6 games against the 2 best records in the AL as it stands right now, with their series against the Rays and now the Orioles. So, look, even when they're not playing at their best, the team has enough talent that they can get through and win some of these games if they're hanging around. But they've been obviously inconsistent against the better teams. And while you're having your various guys struggle, you got to beat these bad teams that just shouldn't be competing, even if you have guys struggling. And then you got to hope to get guys on a roll or get hot at the right time when you get into the playoffs. I mean, I don't see any other way around it. I mean, if they're lucky, maybe they can get the first wild card spot and avoid that second round matchup against Atlanta. Obviously, it worked out last year, but you're playing with fire, trying to play a short series against that lineup, I think. And, I forget how many games they have against Atlanta the rest of the year, but they got, 6 pitchers waiting in the wings to come off the DLs, so they'll be ready to go. And, who knows what the Phillies will do at the trade deadline, which we'll talk about in a minute. But, there's improvements to be made, but how much can they really do?
Yeah, what concerns me a little bit is what these bad teams are. You beat bad teams, you jump on them early, you kind of give them no life, they have no hope, they shut it down a little bit, and the Phillies struggle to jump on teams early. A lot of their wins recently have come like later in innings, falling behind.
They're not hitting.
Because they don't hit, right?
They're not.
They'll
hitting.
go the first through the lineup with 1 hit, second through the line 1 hit. So that's concerning when you're playing these bad teams and you give them life. You let a team like the Pirates get a 2-0 lead. It's a different game than if you're up 2-0. So, something to keep an eye out. Meeker?
Yeah, I mean, from a lineup perspective, I mean, they're just filled with impatient hitters on the lineup. I mean, they don't take walks. They don't take pitches, and Turner probably is the biggest of them all. But my concern is that it doesn't bleed into defense for him, and I've seen that lately. Over the last few weeks, he's not been a good defensive shortstop pretty much all year, but even more recently, I've seen him just fall asleep out there, and he's not getting the balls that he would normally get to. Up the middle, I mean, all around up the middle, I mean, Stott, he's pretty adequate second baseman, but Marsh, Real Muto is not having a great defensive year either behind the plate. That's big. You have to be good up the middle defensively, and they haven't been a great up the middle good team this year. Now they have this Rojas has been playing pretty decent out there in center field, and if they decide to keep Harper at first base and they don't make a deal for an outfielder, I think he's a better center fielder if you want to play him every day than Marsh is. And if you move Marsh to left field, which they've done recently, but I think
You better not think you're going to go and beat the Braves with
no,
Yohan
no.
Rojas as your
Absolutely not.
starting
Absolutely
center
not. But I
fielder.
mean, he does present a better defensive option. Me and you were texting the other night about
for
the
the
ball
next
that
week.
Schwarber couldn't get to. That's a play that if you have, slightly a little more speed, you do get to, and that ends up saving a run, and the game could turn out differently.
Oh, we saw recently that defense can win games. I mean, last night the
Absolutely.
Cave made a play that won a
Mhm.
game. It was the night before another play, so most
And
certainly.
defense could lose games.
And we've seen specifically Schwarber.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
should never step foot on the field ever again. Like, honestly, he should not. I mean, I'm being dead serious. You cannot put him back on the field. You can't.
Now the ball finds him, and
You can't. He loses games. He lost that game the other night. That ball's got to be caught.
It's almost
I mean,
crazy.
dove and-
It's almost crazy to say, but Castellanos has been their best outfielder in the field this year, and he's not great, but
average.
he's made the plays and he's made some nice throws, and he's
he's
playing
also
it
missed
but
okay.
he doesn't get
Right
the balls
field.
as well too.
Yeah.
He might not, but of the three, he's been the best outfielder on the team.
Yeah, well,
in
that's got
his
to
substandard.
change.
Well,
I'm
that's my
hoping it
point. My
changes in
point is
next week.
defensively, they're not a really good team, and I hope that doesn't come back to hurt them, in the latter stages of this year when they're trying to make a playoff spot. But they have to be more patient at the plate. I agree they should move Turner down, but you're right. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on a guy that, is making $300 million, and you can see it now. You can see that he's definitely pressing. He's trying to make something happen, and he's not making things happen. So hopefully he'll turn it around because Jason's right. They need him to be not maybe the player he was last year, but give me 3/4 of the player he was last year, and that'd be a big improvement over where he's been so far this season. Got to turn it around.
So you said they're not patient at the plate. You don't like Edmundo Sosa's 2% walk rate. I mean,
I don't like
I've never seen something that he has played in 70
crazy.
games. He has a 2% walk rate. I mean, that's unbelievable.
I mean, look, they could hit whatever. I mean, I don't think they're too bad with batting average. I haven't looked at the stats before this podcast, but I'm sure that they're not in the bottom tier of the National League. But it doesn't matter. I mean, if you're not getting some walks and getting on base, doesn't matter if you're hitting 265 or 270 or whatever you're hitting, because you're not getting on base other than putting the ball in play. You have to get on base in other ways, and they're just not doing it.
Again, their lack of power is what's killing them. I mean, they haven't. What's the last home run they hit with a man on base? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
It's every home run they hit is a solo home run.
Yeah.
Now, last night it won the game for them, but they just lack power, and it's it's definitely costing them.
Yeah, but let me ask you this. If you start writing down before the season how many home runs each guy in the lineup would hit, other than what Harper has done, would you be way off with how many home runs you think Castellanos or
I would have-
Schwarber
Well,
or
Harper's a
Realmuto's
big
gonna
part
hit?
of it.
Yeah,
though.
but Harper, you're
Harper's-
missing like
that's the
25
big
home
part.
runs.
That's the biggest part of it.
That's
That's
like
what
20
I'm
home
saying.
runs.
It's the biggest part of it. It's
I mean,
really
what's JT have? He don't have many, does he?
Got like
13,
12, I think.
something like that.
13.
Yeah.
And
By the end of the
Castellanos-
year, I mean, these guys will probably have, what you expected.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, they're not hitting home runs. In
Yeah, but
big spots,
what's
and
their
Harper's not
ranking?
hitting
What's
any
their
home
home
runs.
run ranking? Like their slugging percentage in the NL? It's probably like bottom 5, bottom 7.
I'll look it up while we're
Yeah,
talking.
I'm
but-
trying to find that. But I mean, like right now, I mean, and Jason compared the other free agents, like if you want to upgrade, but Turner right now is giving you could argue, less than what you got last year from Segura. So this is supposed to be an upgrade. It's supposed to be better. Maybe there wasn't a better option. Segura's playing worse this year than Turner
Yeah,
is.
he's
but
hitting like 100, I think.
you paid a lot of money for, he'll end up with more home runs because Segura, I think, only had like 11 home runs last year. But Segura hit 277. His OBP was over 300. Like that's better production, and he had a better glove than Turner's giving you right now. So,
I mean, you're missing Hoskins home runs first of all.
Yeah.
That's
the other
big.
one.
Surprisingly enough, the Phillies are 5th in the National League in slugging percentage. surprisingly enough.
How about home runs?
But in home runs, they are 10th. And
Yes.
the teams behind them are the Rockies, the Pirates, the Nationals,
The
Marlins.
Yeah,
teams that all staying, and the
terrible.
teams that are the best teams hit home runs. I mean, that's just the way it is. Yeah, Real Muto has 12. What's Castellanos have?
Like around 11 or 12 too. I think.
14.
14.
Stubbs with 0 this year. Stuff.
Well, no, you hit it on the head though, Tom. Hoskins has 0.
Yeah,
right?
I mean
And
that's
then
huge. Yeah.
His first base replacements have what, like 2 or 3? I mean,
Right, so
come
you
on.
took Hoskins and now Harper. That's 40 home runs right now, 35 home runs. I mean, that's big.
We talked about it in the beginning of the year, and as much as he's much maligned by this podcast. You were going to miss his bat.
Well,
I think we missed it.
I think you found the replacement for him. I think Harper's already a better defensive first
defensive.
baseman than Hoskins.
No question about
Already.
it.
So
Yeah.
I think you might have found something here. And when we start talking about the trade deadline, I think we could get into.
Yeah. So we'll talk about. Let me hear a prediction. So we laid it out: 14 games, 3 against the Pirates, 4 against Miami, 3 KC, 4 against Washington. Jason, what are you looking for out of that? So that's 7. What's that? 7 and 14 games.
Oh yeah, you got to be 10-4.
10-4
against those teams. I think.
Yeah, I agree. Right around 10-4.
So 10-4. So that's what we need to look for. So now, I mean, that won't be by the next podcast, but that should move you up, right? I mean, especially the way the teams are.
Yeah,
the wild card teams are playing now.
It should. Well, you want to win those Marlins games because that'll
make a little bit of a difference.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah,
you don't want to lose
collapsing.
any of them to
I
bad
think
teams, but if you beat the Marlins head to head, you'll get the double whammy there.
I think the Marlins are done.
I mean,
think they're collapsing.
you need to sweep KC. Like, you can't lose a game against.
Yeah.
That ain't a 2 or 3 series. You have to take all 3 of those games.
No, I mean, but Jason was saying about the Marlins. I mean, San Francisco looks like they hit a real wall. They're dropping like a rock. So
I mean, luckily in the Phillies 5-game losing streak, everybody in that.
So I mean, so they might be able to go 9-5 against these teams and still make their way into the playoffs because these other teams are just losing.
Yeah, but this is the
Phillies,
chance to
they are.
separate themselves a little bit.
Well, no,
The
you want
Phillies
to take advantage. You want to take advantage of it, absolutely, because this is the part of your schedule where you need to get those wins. But everybody else is as bad, and we're not watching all these other teams every other night, but they're losing more games than the Phillies right now. So,
of all the teams that are in that realm that we're talking about, the Phillies are the most talented of all those teams. They have to, like you said, they have to pull away from some of these teams. They have to pull away from the Giants. They have to pull away from the Marlins. They have to pull away from the Reds. They're a better team than these teams. Now, if those teams were replaced by a Padres and a Mets,
I was going to say you have some
we're
teams
supposed to be good,
lurking back there, right?
Yeah, then I would be a little more worried. I'm not as worried about not making the playoffs with the teams that are in this, wild card race right now. I do think they'll make it.
And I think the Padres and Mets are going to sell because the Padres have been. They just lost two out of 3 to who was it? Pittsburgh, bad team, and the Mets aren't coming back this year. They're going to sell.
All right, so that brings us to the trade deadline. So the 31st, I guess, Monday is the trade deadline. So you got to the Friday.
It's
and
also another important date in the history of the world. July 31st.
My birthday is always on the trade deadline.
It's the day that God put Meeker on the earth. I don't know if it's good or bad.
Yeah,
it's the day.
Well, I won't say the line that I'm thinking of, but watch. What was with Bill the Butcher? Gangs in New York. How New York was created. That's how Meeker was created. All right, so the trade deadline. So what are the Phillies? We talked about it, I guess, 2 weeks ago. Some moves have happened, so some guys are off the table. Some more rumors are out there. Where we kind of figured they probably need an outfielder at this point, right? Like you said, first base. I don't see them going after a first baseman because I think Thompson said the likelihood of Harper playing the outfield. He didn't really need to say it, but isn't unlikely. So he's playing first base, and you don't want to move him back. And he's going to whatever rotation they put him on, but he's playing first base. So they need an outfielder, and they need a starting pitcher. So
it sounds like they're trying to. I mean, you can't count on it, but they're going to get him some outfield reps before the season ends. They said they want to play.
I heard Thompson interviewed yesterday, and he said it's unlikely that he'll play the outfield this year.
There's a clear team out there, and I gave Meeker a homework assignment before this podcast. I want Meeker to identify the team, and then we can talk about the players that they should be trading for. Who is it, Meeker?
I didn't say I was not identifying a team. I mean, I was identifying players.
So Jason, you went to school with Meeker in his life. Is this normal for you gave him homework?
He a lot of back talk to teachers and a lot of coming up with excuses and stuff.
But in the end, always had the A's. Look, I mean, I read all the rumors, and I think your best bet, if you can pull it off, is to get Cease, only because
wrong.
I don't care what you say is wrong. He's your best bet, like if for the fact that you're not going to sign Aaron Nola. So if you can get a guy like that and you can get him under control and sign him long term, if he comes here, he gets excited, he wants to play here. I mean, that's the guy. But I mean, from the if you're talking about outfield, I guess Teoscar Hernandez is probably your best bet there.
Wrong. Now I don't disagree with what you're saying about the replacement of Nola, but there's a clear team out there that I think that they could go right to and get exactly what they need for this season. And for me, that's the Cardinals, because they could go get Jordan Montgomery and replace Suarez as your lefty, because he's been awful, and I don't know what's going on with him. And Tyler O'Neill, who's a 2-time Gold Glove winning left fielder, right-handed hitter, who's going to bring power.
Healthy.
Can't say I don't care. You're trading for him for the rest of this year. Now, he's up for both of these guys are up for a contract. So maybe you give him a little 2-year deal or something after this. And if the guy could stay healthy, now you got your first baseman in Harper. Okay? And now you're solidifying the outfield defense, because he's better in the outfield than Harper is. And Harper's better at first base than Hoskins is. So now you're solidifying the defense. You're adding pop to the lineup. You're getting Montgomery, who's a solid number 3 starter, good left-handed starter. I don't think he's a replacement for Nola. So in that sense, and I understand your point there, but that's not going to do it. But for this year, I think that's the move.
Well, so that's a move that might not cost you a whole lot.
Right.
If you want to make that move.
Okay, so what do you want to do? I mean, I know you said earlier, but so you're looking for more of a blockbuster, or is this another Sixers coach hire? It doesn't wow you. You need to be wowed by the
like
no. I just think that if the White Sox are willing to talk about Cease, then you definitely have to knock on that door, because he's a young kid. He's had 2 great years in a row. This year he's not been awesome, but he's playing on a god-awful team. And he's your replacement for Nola, and he's not going to cost you $25 million a year.
Yeah, but what's going to cost your players?
Mick Abel's gone in that trade, for sure.
Yeah, well, you would have to trade Abel in that trade. I don't know how much more you need to trade other than him. But
more.
You're going to have to give up a lot more than the deal that Jason's talking about. Maybe for this year, and you're trying to get 2 guys in the trade, that might not be so bad.
You didn't improve your outfield.
Right.
You can go somewhere else and try and improve your outfield.
You can't go with Johan Rojas in your outfield. For another week, that's fine. After that, you need – come on, man. And Jake Cave, whatever his name is, come on.
No, I get it, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, what's more important? Okay, getting another bat in the lineup, but this guy that you're talking about is constantly hurt. And if you make a trade for him and he gets hurt again – then you're back to the same situation you have in the outfield right now.
Yeah, but you can't look at it that way. You're trading for a couple months, and you could get a guy that could solidify your lineup and your outfield for cheap.
I'd have to look at it. I know that he's been on DL at least 2/3 of the season already.
I understand, but he's back now and he's playing well.
Yeah,
and
he's only played in 27 games this year.
Yeah, I worry about that. I mean, if you want to just go out and get a bat,
but you're not giving anything up.
My sentiment is, if you want to go out and get a bat only, and you don't want to try and make a package deal and try and get Montgomery too,
36 games.
I wouldn't choose.
Yeah, he's been
O'Neill.
hurt most of the year.
Yeah.
I would probably go after a guy like Hernandez. That would be my choice if you just want to get the bat. If you want to
He's
try and do a
terrible
package deal, then maybe.
defensively. That's not helping you defensively.
No, it's helping you offensively, but it's not
Well,
helping
you need help
defensively.
both.
Oh, he's better than Schwarber in the outfield. Let's put it that way.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
he's not much. I mean, he's not a good defensive player at all, Teoscar Hernandez.
I could put a
don't-
tackling dummy in the outfield and get the same
Right.
production.
An orange cone with a glove attached to the top. It's better.
Chalky, you want to chime in here? You still dying on the Otani mountain that seemed to have crumbled over the last few days?
Nah, it was a done deal, but hey, things change, whatever. Chuck Klein was the key to that trade. He's being dead for 75 years or whatever. I guess I'm different because I would like to see them think big, and
What's big?
well, Harper playing first kind of takes us out of play, but if people are calling on Arenado, he would have been a great fit. He's got defense, he's got bat, but that's assuming Bohm plays first. And if Harper's going to be there, then you got no place for Bohm unless you're sending Bohm in an Arenado trade. Soto, I don't know. I mean, it's probably crazy, but if San Diego's looking to deal, man, look, to me, nobody's untouchable. I'm sorry. This team, you can't give up everything, but at the same time, this team is built to win in the next 2-3 years. Andrew Painter is not going to contribute on this team until 25 or 26, if you're lucky. If you can get a big name as part of a deal, and if it demands that Painter is in there, I don't think you can say he's not.
Yeah, but does Painter lose some of his luster now? I mean,
he might, but I think when you're looking at it, he's not going to contribute to you for a couple of years. Like he was looked at as a cheap.
But I'm saying for teams that would want him, you want a guy that's going to have not only had Tommy John, he had to have like his ulnar.
No, but if you have a team that's not that doesn't expect to be any good for the next 2 or 3 years, yeah, they'll take a shot on a guy like that. That's supposed to be really, look, these guys that have
but they could,
but value wise,
they can get somebody. They can trade him with another team and get somebody that's not taking a shot.
Is it going to be the best deal that's out there? Maybe not. Which is what we talk about all the time, especially with the Sixers. Like, sure, I like to trade, Harris for this guy and that guy, but he's never going to be the best offer for any of those players. All I'm saying is to say that if they were, or if we're thinking that Painter should be untouchable, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I think if he can be used to get a bigger name in here that can put this team over the top, and hopefully, now I wouldn't trade him for a rental. So if you could get, I don't know if Cease is the guy, but if you get a pitcher that's got 2 years on it because you're expecting to lose Nola as part of a bigger deal, I think you have to think about including Painter in that.
But I just think if you're trading Painter now, the other team's going to come back to you and say, okay, well, yeah, you're giving us Painter, who's coming off Tommy John. His value is now an 8 instead of a 9.5.
It's going to cost.
It's going to cost you more than that. You're not going to get Soto for Painter. You're going to have to throw something else in there. So what's the cost of the rest of the deal, right? I get that. But I mean, these other guys. I mean, last year they made a couple tweaks and they were all right. But some of the guys we mentioned, it doesn't do anything for me as far as is it going to put the team over the top? You got to get lucky again. Make a splash. That's kind of the way I would try to go about it. But
yeah, I just don't know if your splash is within this. You might have been more prone for those UFO hearings that they just had than our podcast, because I don't know.
I look at 2008
reality.
Well, I'm just saying, try. You're going to say, we can't trade this guy. Why should anybody be untradeable if there's good players that are potentially out?
I don't think anybody said you can't trade this guy or that guy. I think.
Well, I mean, they were saying last year all these guys were untouchable. So,
But they say that stuff. It adds, they're just, it's posturing for other
Posturing.
teams.
Posturing. But if they could have put a deal for Castillo, they could have if they wanted to put their best players out there, they could have beat what the Mariners gave up for him, and he's doing pretty well over there. So he would be a great arm to have in the rotation. Jason loved that idea last year, and they didn't pull it off, but they could have gotten it. They could have made a better offer than Seattle did, but they chose not to. If there's a really good player out there, don't get cheap here. Is all I'm saying.
Assuming that San Diego is going to even talk about or think about trading Soto in and of itself is where you start, and I don't know that they're even thinking about that, because even if they're not going anywhere this year, they don't want to not have him next year.
I'm looking at the latest, and this was published after we started, and Padres are not committing, but Hader, Snell, and Soto are all on the table for discussion.
All right, I'll go after Snell. I like that.
Yeah, I'm more along the lines of Dylan Cease. than a Soto because Cease. Now you're replacing Nola, like Meeker said, because I don't think they're signing Nola. Now you're going to need another number 2 starter. So
I would
Soto,
too. I would make him a priority over Soto. But
yeah.
to me, that's a splash. He's a we finished with second in Cy Young last year. You have to see what it costs, but that's a big move. That's not bringing Syndergaard in like last year.
But I look at 2008. They didn't make a splash then. They brought in
No.
Joe Blanton. They brought in Matt Stairs. They brought in Jeff
but
Jenkins.
they probably had more of a complete lineup at that point.
Not a pitching staff.
No, not pitching.
No, they got very fortunate with their pitching.
No.
Well, Blanton. I mean, they brought Blanton in.
Yeah,
he
but
ended up
that's
being
not a
way-
splash.
That's a
it wasn't a
compliment.
splash.
Montgomery.
It wasn't a splash, but what he produced for them.
Well, that was
huge.
Jason's point. Yeah. Well, that
Yeah.
was,
But you had Hamels who was anchoring the rotation down that year. Like Nola and Wheeler have been up and down all year. Like, are you going to be able to count on either of them come playoff time? I certainly hope so. I wish we can, but
yeah, I think the guys they have to get better as well, right? Like Wheeler has
Absolutely.
to pitch better. He
No
just has
question.
to. Suarez, like you said, what's going on with Suarez? I mean, he has to pitch better.
going back to 2008, Brett Myers got sent down to the minors in the middle of the season. He came back up, and he pitched really, really well for the second half of the year. And in the playoffs, when he came back up, he got better. So they didn't make that move or need to make that move. But, I remember having a conversation of right after Sabathia got traded to Milwaukee, and I think it was me, Jason, and Tommy going to Monmouth Park or something, and we were like, they missed a big opportunity there, and obviously, they still won without him, but at that time, we thought that big arm was something they needed as well, and Victorino took him out that year. But
see, I think of it as now, if you look at every team in baseball, there's only one team right now that could say we don't have to worry about a 3-game series, right? And that's the Braves. So that means every other team in baseball needs a solid 1, 2, 3 to get through that first game, because if you finished as a third division winner or one of the wild cards, you got a 3-game series coming up. So like, are you guys okay with Wheeler, Nola? Obviously, they're not pitching great, but come on, they're good pitchers. Are you okay with who you're putting as that third pitcher right now in that rotation? I'm not.
I'm hoping they win the
Listen,
first two like they did last year.
If
And
Suarez
then-
pitches how he could, yes, but what it does is solidifying another pitcher. It gives you insurance against the Nola not performing or a Suarez not performing. It gives you that flexibility.
Don't forget, they were
Plus, you can
2
move-
outs away from having to play a third game potentially because they were down 2-0 in the ninth inning of the first game, and then things went crazy. That's why you get to put a limit on what you would give up for Cease, but I would be willing to go pretty high on that because I think he would be a bigger help than the bats that are likely to be available.
It also seems like, last year I guess not so much, but Dombrowski he makes a move kind of guy. I mean,
He's doing something.
Right.
You
Yeah.
could bet both of your.
and it doesn't
he's
sound
doing
like he's a
something.
guy that would do a Montgomery and an O'Neill. He's a guy that would do more of a, maybe not Soto, but like a Soto type of guy or something. But again, he can only do within the parameters that's available too.
Yeah.
I just think a Soto guy is more like an off-season.
No, and I
move
was
than
just using. I'm saying
now.
like a guy, a big
Yeah.
a big name. But again, Meeker's made the point many times that those guys are harder to get because teams are competing. So what team's going to give up besides a Cardinals who, an Arenado or
Mets, Padres, Cardinals.
yeah, that's
Let's
it.
say, if Verlander and Scherzer go on the
That's
market,
true.
then a guy like Cease might not be the top priority for some teams, even though he's younger and he's got more controllable years. So,
Well, let me say this 2 things. So you think Suarez would be the third? I actually think Walker would be the third guy.
Right now, I think so.
But
Walker.
and you can look this up because I heard it and I was extremely surprised the other day. He is second in baseball, not in wins, but the team's record when he starts. There's Garrett Cole, I think, is number 1 in baseball, and Taijuan Walker is second in baseball. The Phillies have won 16 games in his starts.
Well, he keeps
So,
them in game. He's generally keeping them in games. And they're right
So
there to win. But
It's amazing because he pitches to contact and he gets balls hit hard.
he
They're
also
right at
gets
guys.
himself in some trouble. But
Hey, he's
he
definitely
gets
gotten
out of
lucky.
it.
He's definitely gotten lucky. I think the Scherzer situation is a little weird because of the fact that he can opt into his contract next year, which pays him $47 million or something like that. So depending on who's going to trade for Scherzer, if they're going to trade the better prospect, the Mets may eat some of that money. But if they're not going to give him a whole lot, then they want the team to eat his contract because he's going to opt in. There's no doubt he's going to go free agent again.
I don't want him. I don't want Max Scherzer.
No,
I think he's done. I don't want him.
I don't know that he's done. I mean, I think
He's not done, but he's on the downside. Big
but
time.
he's not the kind of guy I think that would be fit for the Phillies given their situation in the future. Maybe and Chalky, to your point, would that be a splash because he's Max Scherzer, because he's a name? That would be a splash, but it wouldn't be a good deal for the Phillies to make. And the Mets just, even though they're out of it, I don't think that they're going to sell. I think that
selling.
I don't. Who are they going to sell? I mean, you're going to try Scherzer or Verlander?
Those are really the two guys they can sell. I mean, a lot of the other, you're going to sell Alonso. No, you're not going to sell your younger, better players. And so, as far as veterans on bigger contracts, those are the two guys. And
Robertson.
Yeah,
Robertson could be a piece.
I can do without him for a third time.
Yeah, I don't want him.
But Scherzer would be a splash and make a headline as an actual impact. No, I don't think so. I mean, he's been shot the last 2 years by the end of the year, so I don't.
Yeah, playoffs.
Unless you're going to sit him for 2 months and then bring him in the playoffs, I don't know that I want.
Well, any team that trades for him is going to have to trade what the Mets would value as a top end prospect for a guy that you're going to have to pay $60 million to over the next.
I don't see the value in that for the Phillies making an in-division deal for that kind of price.
No, nope.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen either. I'm not sure if he's going to get traded because of that reason.
All right. Good discussion. Anything before we close out the baseball segment? Move on to Saratoga. I think we covered it.
Well, I mean, one name we didn't really talk about with the pitching is Stroman. So, I mean, how high are some of you guys want Stroman?
That's another team because you have Bellinger and Stroman you could go get, right? And now you could.
Well, that's a better two for sure.
But you're going to give up a lot more.
Yeah. Or you're willing to give up a lot more to get those two guys on the team. And, Stroman's going to be a free agent, but he's a guy you might be able to sign for a couple years.
Yeah.
Bellinger, I guess the reason why now they're moving on from that is the whole, Harper's going to play first base every day. Bellinger's another left-handed bat. We would rather have a right-handed bat.
Yeah, I think they'd rather have a right-handed
bat. Bellinger kills lefties, though, so it's not like it's not a weakness in the lineup where now with lefty-on-lefty matchups a problem because you don't have enough right-handed bats. He's really good against lefties, and he's got Gold Glove outfield and infield defense.
Yeah.
But the pitcher, in a deal like that, there's no doubt I'd rather have Stroman than any of these guys.
And Stroman's a guy that could replace Nola.
What's his situation contract-wise?
He's done.
He's a free agent next year.
Well, then you really can't count on that then. I mean, Cease,
what do you mean
you can count on more. You
can't.
He's done. He's
that's
a free
the
agent.
risk. Like I don't know if you can talk an extension now for a guy you just trade for. I don't know the rules are in baseball. Probably not, but that's where it gets a little iffy. You got to start right when you bring him in. Like, okay, we want you to be around, and you do whatever you can.
But hold on a second. Like, he's coming to a perennial contender who has an open pocketbook, wallet, whatever you want to say. Like, they spend the Phillies. So why wouldn't he? Like, they trade for him, they'll sign him. If they want to sign him.
If they want to, it just depends if the Phillies want to sign him, they'll sign him.
Right. I don't think Stroman would go and take another deal. Yeah. If the Phillies want him, they're going to pay him and they're going to sign him.
Well, it gives you more of an opportunity, but there's no guarantee it's going to happen. That's why I'd rather trade for a guy like Cease. But
you're going to give up infinitely more.
But you might have that guy on your staff for the next 6 years.
They're not going to get any of these guys. We're just wasting our time at this point.
I think it's more likely what I originally opened up with, and that it's going to break your heart, Jim, because the Cardinals. That's
not breaking my heart. I think they should be shooting higher. Last year they didn't really shoot higher. I think this year they need to be trying.
I think he was meaning because that was one of your draft. Your Cardinals was one of your keys. To your draft.
They're looking good tonight. They're only down 5-0. They're not out of it yet.
It was the conviction that you drafted them, and I guess how early you drafted them.
They're a closer. They're coming from.
I had my phone, and when you drafted them, I thought there was a smudge because the record was so bad. So I literally start cleaning my phone because I was like, wait, that can't be the record that he just drafted.
It's a value pick.
No, but I mean, seriously though, I think that is a more likely trade to me because it's two guys that their contracts are up. You know, it's not. You're not. You know, making a huge splash, but they're two guys that could help. They're Joe Blanton and
Matt Stairs.
whoever, Jeff Jenkins.
All right.
Kataguchi.
Right.
All right, let's move on. We will say goodbye to Meeker. We'll see
All
you
right,
next
guys, have a
week.
good
as
one.
Well, we need a Meeker Saratoga segment one of these weeks. I think. Like you got to contribute. We need horse picks from you. One of these weeks. You got to agree to give us horse picks one week.
How many
Come
more
on.
weeks are
He
left?
has to give his top choice, whether it's the best name. We got
Ah,
5
this is
weekends
only-
after this.
Yeah, there's 5 more Saratoga.
Is that it? Only
weeks.
5?
5 more weeks? Wow.
This is week 3, right?
Week 3, yeah.
Week 3 of 8.
3.
Does Jimmy D stay down there the whole time?
Well, he's not down there right now, so.
Well, yeah, most of
I would say 90%
Yeah.
of the
most of
time.
the meat. Yeah, he's
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Enjoy, fellas. Have
All
a good
right.
night.
All right, Meeker.
all right.
Have fun playing your game, or whatever it is.
Puckduku.
Fuck dude.
Whatever it's called.
All right, let's move to Saratoga, weekend number 3. So we're going to talk about the pick 5 since it does start with a grade 1. A little caveat, which unfortunately we mention this almost every weekend. The weather is possibly a concern on Saturday. Right now, the forecast shows it as a pretty much washout, but the weather in Saratoga is unpredictable. So we will handicap these races as if they are on the dirt, a fast track, on the turf. You know, we can only do what we can do. We don't know what's going to happen. Last week, we were riddled with scratches from a lot of our picks. So it's always tough when you do it this. Well, even if you did it the night before, you don't know what's going to happen with scratches. So, again, a lot of our picks are dependent on pace scenarios, and when certain horses scratch, that alters races. So keep that in mind. But this helps give just a little bit of an idea, and we do talk about a lot of the horses. So let's kick it off. It starts at 426. It's the pick 5, race 8, the grade 1, Alfred Vanderbilt handicap. I will go to Jimmy the Chalk, who's live in Saratoga, maybe getting a first-hand perspective, maybe seen some of these horses crossing the street when he drove up.
Interviewing trainers, maybe.
I saw one of them walking down
the
the street earlier, but I hope they're not running in any of the races this weekend because that means they were out on the loose.
He did get Popeye's chicken on his way up, so he probably ate some of the horses that we talked about in some of the previous segments.
I did have a horse van with a horse's ass in my face for about 15 minutes on the Jersey Turnpike earlier. So,
so the grade 1 Vanderbilt, Chalky, go ahead.
So I really wanted to go with Gunite as a horse for course. He's got better speed figures, but Elite Power has been just so visually impressive in all his races, and he's beaten Gunite recently, so I'm not going to get clever. So Elite Power, the 4, would be my top pick in here.
All right, Jason, your top pick?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a 2-horse race, right? It's between 4 Elite Power and 5 Gunite.
Linda Rice has claimed the one gun it.
Well, listen,
since she
not
claimed
done.
them.
I'm going to have something to say about Linda Rice, but I do think Gunite has a slight advantage being drawn outside of Elite Power, but I just think Elite Power is just slightly better horse. But I am going to try to beat Gunite for second, and I'm going to use the 1, Gunite, the Linda Rice horse. Just think he's going to – there's some speed in the race. I think he'll kind of sit back and maybe he – if Elite Power and Gunite are going at it, maybe Gunite drops back and Gunite sneaks up and gets by him for the exacta. But I'm like Chalky. I'm going to go with the 4 Elite Power, my top pick.
Yeah, I mean, Elite Power really doesn't run on the lead, though. I know you said if they go at it, but most of his races, he's coming from behind. So
I'm sorry. I think they both run a similar style, Gunite and Elite Power. So I think like if they're maybe battling at some point, then maybe Gunite comes and passes one of them and gets in the second. But I agree.
Yeah, all right. So I mean, Gunite I think has a little more early speed now. The 6 and the 7 should be kind of kicking it for the lead. The 3 has ridiculous speed, but obviously is a pig, so could show cheap speed. So there should be a good amount of pace. So it should be a horse that's going to come from behind and who has the best closing kick. And I again, like Jimmy said, Gunite has some better speed figures from here and there, but I don't mean elite power has just visually been so elite. Has IRAD, so you're going to get that big jockey advantage with IRAD over Gaffleon. So I'll go with elite power as well. I mean, similar to Jason, if you want to try to beat Gunite, I feel like you definitely can with Gun It. Outside of that, I don't really see anybody else. So those 3 should figure it in the trifecta. But again, you would have to look at probables to see if there's even value. I mean, Irad and Jose might also get bet in the exactas, but elite power for me as well. So nothing clever. Chalky, anything to add before we move on?
I mean, like, you guys talk about the 1. I mean, it's almost silly to leave Linda Rice out of anything nowadays, the way her horses are running. So the 1 and maybe the 6 as like a second place in a trifecta if you don't want to use Gun It there, or Gun It, I should say. But it's hard to get too clever.
Yeah, somebody tweeted that like Linda Rice, her last 10 claiming horses that won it have been would have been other trainers like claims of a lifetime. She bought them cheap and they've won. I mean, one of the horses she got for like 40, and they already in 3 races they won like 300K or something like that. I mean, it's just absolutely insane at this point. All right, move on to race 9. This is a turf race, Allowance. So this would be one that would definitely could suffer from the rain. Could get a good surface, a yielding surface, or it could be totally off the turf, depending on the timing of the rain, how much rain. So we'll cap it for turf, but keep that in mind. Jason, I'll start with you. Race 9. It's a mile on the turf allowance race, first level allowance.
Yeah, and it's a shame if this race does come off, because this is a heck of a race. It's a tough race. I think there's literally like 5 or 6 horses who could win this race, but I'm going to give a slight edge to the 10, Get Your Kicks. I love Pratt on turf, and I'll give him the slight edge, and mostly because the 2 other main contenders I thought were the 5 and the 6, both Ortiz horses, seemed to like second. So I'm going to go with the 10, Get Your Kicks. But again, that's just slightly my top pick. I'm going to spread like crazy in this race.
Yeah, I had the same top pick as well. I was a little, I maybe post position and jockey, but the 5 being 7-2 and the 10 being 6-1, I thought was a little odd, because to me the 10 looks like the better horse of the 2.
Yeah.
But again, maybe the IRAD factor and the better post. But I thought the 10 had a little more tactical speed. I know that outside post isn't great. However, there's not a ton of speed, so if the 6 goes out, the 2 goes out, I don't see the 10 having too much of a problem kind of getting over, the 10 getting over into a nice spot along the rail, sitting kind of tactical and taking over and just holding off maybe the likes of a 4 or a 5 or a 6 a 5 or a 9, I guess would be another one of the closers. So I was 10 top pick as well. Chalky?
I was hoping to get this one first because I knew Jason was going to 10, but I didn't know that you would be as well. But my top pick is the 10, Get Your Kicks. The other Chad, if you go by the morning lines. For a lot of reasons, what you guys said, he's cutting back to a 2-turn mile, which is where he broke his maiden in his second to last out. You got Pratt, and if he's going to be I think he's comparable to the 5, and if he's going to be a bigger price, I'd rather have him at a bigger price than the 5.
Yeah. Jason, I know you alluded to saying you're going to use a few others in here. Anyone in particular?
Well, like I said, the 2 Ortiz horses you have to use, even though they do like second. I mean, that's a trifecta bet or exacta bet, like keying those 2 guys second to 5, who is Expand the Map, and then the 6 Diamond Hands. I'm also going to use the 8 Candle, the Shug horse, and then the 11, who is Spungle, the Alvarado and Mott horse. Spongy,
yeah, Spongy, I guess it is. Yeah, Spongy was a horse I remember liking last year at Saratoga, who was the favorite and ran third. I can visually remember sitting on my couch for that race watching it.
This is a great race. I really hope
Yeah,
like
I
it
mean
stays on. I mean,
the four. There's coming off a maiden win, Grand Motion.
I just don't like Franco's just been terrible.
Yeah, wow, I didn't realize he was that bad.
Oh, he's just been, and he even was riding. He had a couple bad rides today. That's why I didn't.
Yeah,
before.
yeah. This is I mean, this is a tough race, and also one that like the odds can you like we're saying the 10, but the 10 could easily go off at morning line of 6-1. I mean,
Yeah.
a couple of the favorite might go off at 3-1. So yeah, definitely a tough race. Chalky, did you have anything to add along with your top pick?
I mean, I got the 5, 6, and 11 in the mix as well. A longer price. I was looking at the 2. You got to have fun. It's first for Maker. Maker had a slow start, but as of printing of these past performances, he got his first race. He won at least one on the card today, so he might be getting a little hot. So I thought at 15-1, maybe take a shot with the 2, throw him in there as a longer price.
And even 3 isn't impossible. I mean, it's
Brendan Walsh has been doing well too, so far with his horses. He had at least a win today, and he's I think I like them later in the card too if when we get to it.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'd say too, if it does come off, I mean, if all these MTOs get in, like any one of those could win. So I just like 3, 4, or 5. I remember that. We're not looking at now, but it's not a single if it goes off the turf either. If all these horses get in,
yeah, I mean the 1 could be tough, with Rudy Rod and Chad, and Speed, but that's that same race.
Yeah,
so
then you got Linda gets into that one if the 15 gets in, and
yeah, it's hard. Who knows?
Who knows? But
all right, let's move on. So the feature of the Saratoga Saturday is the race 10 mile 8 Jim Dandy. It's a grade 2. Has this race really fallen from favor? It's run close to the Haskell nowadays. I don't think it was always run as close to the Haskell. I don't know. It just does not bring big fields any longer. It used to be the big prep race, I guess, for the Travers, and it doesn't seem like it really is any longer. You do have the Kentucky Derby favorite who scratched before the Derby running in this race. You had the Belmont Stakes favorite who did not win in this race in the same horse. And you have a couple rising stars and a couple other ones that you're familiar with.
You have the actual Derby favorite.
Who was the Derby favorite?
Angel of Empire was the favorite.
Oh wow.
Derby.
Yeah, so yeah, at least it has some nice horses in it. So I'll go first. I mean, as much as I wanted to go against Fort, I just can't. I don't know if Saudi Crown can get the distance, and that's the speed of the race, going to set the pace. Brad Cox does have 3 horses in here, so who knows what kind of shenanigans. I mean, I just thought Fort was the best 3-year-old in training. Has been sidelined. Asking the horse to go 1.5 miles off a 10-week layoff, I think was just a little too much in the Belmont. He took a little bit while, but once he started motoring in the Belmont, he came flying home. Is he going to get a pace? That's going to be the question. I mean, again, Saudi Crown's probably not going to go super fast. I don't know how much distance that horse can get. Adam Blinkers is curious. Obviously, they want to keep him a little bit closer, but I'll ultimately go with Fort, the chalk in this race. Chalky?
Yeah, the lack of pace concerned me, and obviously that would favor Saudi Crown. I also had questions about the distance. Like, he's never gone 2 turns, so I wasn't going to go there. I'm actually going to go with the 1, Disarm, and he's a horse that, he hasn't won these big races, although he won a grade 3 last time out. He ran well in the Derby, not great. Ran okay in some of these other races, but from a speed figure perspective, he's been improving each race. And he might get first jump or lie close enough to the leaders to get first run. Ford is the most talented of this group, and I took Angel of Empire in the Derby and the Belmont. I'm not on him this particular day, but Ford, you said it took him a while to get going in the Belmont, and he was off for a while. It took him a while to get going in that Florida Derby too, when he was eventually able to get Mage. I think it's a dangerous formula if he's got to do that again. So with Disarm getting first jump potentially on the leader, I'm going to make Disarm my top pick.
Yeah, I know Disarm did improve in the Derby biography, but be a little leery of that Matt Wynn, the 102 in the slop. I mean, the horse has a 463 Tomlinson, which is one of the highest Tomlinsons you can get.
I mean, if it's slop on Saturday.
But yeah, well, that could factor in, of course. Jason.
Yeah, like you guys said, I mean, Shouty Crown really has a pace advantage here. Two, Pletcher's adding blinkers. You would think it's because he wants Forte to be more prominent.
He wants to be involved early, more not necessarily
yeah.
on the lead, but just more focused early. I think.
So I mean, I think I'm going with Forte or Fort, whatever his name is. If he sits off and he's just the best horse. So and if he takes to the blinkers and sits off, I think he'll go by and win. He'll be my top pick. But I'm also, I'm going to use Hit Show too because I think Hit Show also won't be too far off. And if Fort isn't, if his running style, if he doesn't take to this new running style, which I think he's going to try here. I think Hit Show could go by and win. I'm not on Disarm. I just think he'll be too far back unless it's really slop. Then he could win. And I'm definitely not on Angel Empire. So I'll be mostly on Fort. But then I think Hit Show's got a shot.
Yeah, that was a horse we all picked in the Belmont. We all liked. Switching to Saez is huge off for Franco. Cox and Saez has had a lot of success. Yeah, I mean that's a horse that's going to be forwardly placed as well. Could get that first jump. So 100% agree with that. All right, let's move on to race 11. We're now looking at 619. It's a 5.5 turf state bred allowance race. That is not going to be an easy race, I wouldn't think. But we'll let Chalky go first.
Top choice here was a little bit of a price. 6, Saratoga Chrome. Second race with Hiles, Scott Santana coming on. Adam blinkers. He's got some, Hiles has some good numbers with that. And the race, he's cutting back, which, he hasn't run in sprints, but Hiles obviously trying something here. I mean, this is one of those, again, that could be wide open. So I was looking to get a little bit of a price here. So I was taking the 6 on top.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you just look at the DRF stats, his numbers with the cutbacks and turf sprints are all good. But he's not really a high-profile trainer. And I will say his one win here at Saratoga came in a 3-horse off-the-turf race. So keep that, that's just something to think about. I don't know if he can win against some of these big boys in a full field, but we shall see. Jason?
Yeah, like you guys said, this is another good race that hopefully stays on the turf. For me, it's going to be between the 7 Curry and the 8 Busy Morning. I'll give the slight edge to the 8 Busy Morning, and Chalky will make fun of me because it's Pratt. But
Pratt and the other one was Saez. So
my one's going to make fun. Like Tommy wasn't going to say something either. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say
something. And I'm obviously using both of them when I put a bet in. But the 7. I'll just say when the 7 ran at Saratoga, he didn't run well, so maybe he doesn't like Saratoga turf. I don't know. So I'll just give the slight edge to the 8, but obviously I'm going to be going a lot deeper in multis in this race.
Yeah, Joe Sharp, he's another one that kind of scares me a little bit. He comes in with some of these nice horses at Saratoga, and he disappoints a lot, and then he'll win a race at like a price.
Yeah, out of the blue.
Yeah. So, I had trouble finding like a lot of speed in this race. I know Kerry looks like had it the mile race, but I don't know it. It's not really a quick horse. To me, the 9 is the only horse that's really going to just fire. And when this horse has gotten the lead easily, and they let this horse go, it is Jose. He doesn't turn around. He did it at Pimlico, he did it at Belmont, he did it in his turf debut at Aqueduct. And I could see a situation where the same thing's happening, where he's getting the lead again pretty easily, and he's not going to rein it back. I think he's going to let it out and be up 2-3 lengths and just play catch me if you can, especially the way Jose's riding these days, which is super aggressive, especially with the speed horses. So I was on the 9 Active Congress. again, the rain could factor in, the scratches could factor in, so we shall see. But yeah, I was on the 9 Act of Congress. Chalky, did you have any other thoughts as we move around?
9 would be my second choice, and then in multis, I would probably look to use one or both of the donks, the 3 and the 5, in some way.
Jason?
I would be 4 deep here, 5, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really care for the 7, but I did like Jason's 8. So he would be definitely one that I would be using along with the 9. The Saratoga Chrome was a horse I gave a look, but ultimately I think I decided to pass. Yeah, Irad and Donk is a connection that doesn't ride too often. So I mean, I thought the 3 was a little bit interesting with Irad, so a little spready there as well. But I did like the 9, pretty good amount. So all right,
3 is Velasquez, 5 is Alfred.
Oh, did I say 3? I'm sorry. 5. I meant fancy,
Yeah.
which is Donk. Yeah.
Yeah, they're both
I meant. All right, I did mean the 5 if I said the 3.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the pay leg. It's race 12, mile and 3/8, maiden special weight. Mile and 3/8 is always a race where I kind of like, why did they write a mile and 3/8 maiden special weight? Where it's almost like this might be written for a particular horse. So then I start to look for who it could be possibly written for. So, just a thought. And Jason, you're up, so you're first here.
Yeah, I this is my horse of the day. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's a contest horse, but again, I hope this stays on the turf because I'm single in the 7. She's Mo Bubbly, something or other, right? Ran well at the distance already. The horse that he beat is she. I don't even know if these are guys or girls. I'm sorry.
Female.
Yeah, the horse that she beat came back and won. The horse that beat her came back and won the next race. It's Irad. It's a jockey's race. It's probably written for this horse, and that is my single, the 7.
Yeah, I was on the same horse as well, for reasons why, and I kind of alluded to it when I was saying I look for horses that this is written for. The horse ran a mile and 3/8 at Belmont. It's Irad. It's Pletcher. So why would Saratoga, New York track, write a race? It would be for a Chad Brown or a Todd Pletcher or somebody like that. So the 7 was the horse that I also was as my top pick. Chalky?
Yeah, the riding the race angle wasn't something I had looked at. I had the 7 in the mix, but I went with the other Pletcher, the 9, Fizzy. Didn't really run too much of anything last time out. Now Pletcher's bringing it back in a mile and 3/8 race. Like, it's not a normal race, so for him to go from a 1-turn mile at Belmont to this is 3 turns at Saratoga, like, seems like a jump, or it's not something he would just do just because he wanted to throw the horse in. Like, he seems to have a reason for it. And Pletcher and Pratt connected a hefty 33% at Saratoga. So 9 Fizzy was my top pick.
All right, Jason, I know you said that was a single for you. So, all right. Yeah, the other horse I like was the Brendan Walsh horse, which was the 10. Coming off of ran well at that Funky Churchill course. Tried to put him in a race on the turf at a mile and a quarter. So the horse, clearly he wanted to get some distance into the horse. It did scratch off the turf that day. He ran well regardless. Could have been because it's a mile and a quarter and the horse just wants to get distance. So at a mile and 3/8, Walsh is training well. I'll go with the 10 as my other alternative to the 7. Chalky, bring us home.
I mentioned the 7 already, and then the 3, Clement. Rosario's been riding well recently, and horse ran a mile and a quarter last time out, so distance he's been getting it in, but 3 would be the other horse I used there.
All right. Well, Chalky, you'll have to give us a report next week on how Saratoga was. I know you didn't make it to the track today, but you'll be there tomorrow, so let us know. Hopefully the rains will hold off Saturday.
We doing tickets? We're going to give ticket out?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. You guys have tickets? Yeah, go for it. I always forget. Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
I have one. It's just a caveman ticket. It's going to be 2 singles. So I'm going to single the 4 Elite Power, race 8. I'm going to go 6 deep in race 9, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11. I am going to go too deep in the Jim Dandy. I'm gonna obviously use Fort, but I'm going to throw in Hit Show. 4 deep, race 11, 5, 7, 8, 9, and I am singling the 7 horse in race 12. So for 50 cents, it's $24.
All right, and Chalky, you giving out one of your expert cavemans with 5x7 by 10 and 10, 5.
Yeah. Well, how much was Jason's now?
24.
All right,
It was half of yours last week, just saying.
It was, but mine was the one that had a chance to win the end, but still lost.
Well, again, the horse is scratched, so let's stop that nonsense.
No, yeah. All right, so single to 4, Elite Power, 5 deep in the second leg, which will be 2, 5, 6, 10, 11. 2 deep in the Jim Dandy as well, but I'm 1, 2. In the 11th race, 3, 5, 6, 9. And then Jason singled in the last, but I have 3 there, 3, 7, and 9. And that's $60 for 50 cents.
Oh, you went more this week. I see us busting chops did not deter the wallet for this.
60's a reasonable ticket.
Nah, I didn't say anything. I'm just stating facts here. Broad Street Hustle, episode 65 of Broad Street Hustle. We'll catch you next week, where I'm sure we'll talk Phillies trade, post-trade. And we are getting ever closer to the NFL season. At probably the end of August, we'll have our NFL preview show, which is always a great show. We'll probably have a slew of people on for that one. So definitely smash that like and subscribe button, please. Catch us on YouTube and all your platforms. Have a great night.